The last time we saw each other, we made fresh buttermilk and butter. And now that we have our buttermilk, we're going to make Irish soda bread. But first, I really need to open a door. It's so hot in here. Oh my goodness. Oh, there's Harley. It's one of our cats. All right, the recipe that we're going to do today is an Irish soda bread, which is a traditional Irish bread that uses baking soda instead of yeast to raise the bread. And it can be found in our Lambie recipe book. This book has been curated by many ladies who have worked in the house, including myself, over many years. This book was made for us in Jack Corrigan's leather shop, and all of the recipes have been handwritten by the ladies who work in the Lambie house. We're going to start with our dry ingredients. This recipe calls for 1.5 cups of white flour and 1.5 cups of whole wheat flour, but today I only have white flour, so we're going to make an exception. It's 3 cups of flour. Next, we will add 2 tablespoons of sugar, 2 tablespoons of rolled oats, and most importantly, our raising agent, the baking soda. Before we add the buttermilk, we're going to give that a good stir to incorporate all of the ingredients together. Next, you're going to make a well in the middle of your ingredients.
Hi, Harley.
Hi, Harley. And that is where we are going to place the buttermilk. 1.5 cups of buttermilk. There we go. I like to do this in sections as it makes incorporating everything a bit easier. It's very important with this bread that you don't overmix it because you don't want the soda to be activated too quickly. All right, so once you've added all of your buttermilk, make sure that it's nice and incorporated. This is going to be a rather sticky dough, so don't be afraid if it's not coming together like a normal bread dough would. And I like to do the last part with my hands. So get some flour on there so the dough doesn't stick too much to your hands. This bread does not need to be kneaded very much. So just give it a light kneading. Ba-doom, boom, boom, ba-doom, boom, boom. Once your dough is able to be formed into a nice ball, you'll know that it's ready. It's not too sticky, but it sticks enough to itself. Like so. Place it on your baking tray, take a knife, and you're going to make an X on top. This is to let the steam out, but the Irish say that it's to let the fairies out. So make a cut there, and a cut here. And one final step, which is optional, is to take a pinch of salt and put it on top. Next, we need to put this in the oven. In a traditional oven, you should put this in at about 400 degrees for about 40 minutes, but I don't have a regular oven. I have a wood-burning stove, so we'll have to do a test to see if it's hot enough. This is my wood stove. It's a beautiful piece of cast iron that keeps everything nice and warm in this house, most days too warm. I have my firebox here. I have a nice fire going. I could add another piece of wood here. This will make it so that my oven is hot enough. Here we go. So there are a couple ways to check if your oven is hot enough. The method that I like to use is to place my hand in the oven and see if my cuticles are hot. If my cuticles are hot, it usually means it's around 350 to 375 degrees. If it's too hard to keep them in there, they're too hot, then I know it's close to 400. I'm going to use my cuticles as the guide and open the oven. Place your hand inside. And I'd say it's probably at about 350 degrees, so we want to bump it up a little bit. So we're going to take our bread, place it on the middle rack, and leave it for about 15 minutes. Our recipe says 40 to 50 minutes in the oven, but because my wood box is on this side of the oven, I actually have to turn my baking so that it doesn't bake more on one side than the other. Some other wood stoves work a bit better than that and circulates the heat better, but I've baked on this many times and I know if I don't turn my baking, it will burn. It's burning very nicely now. I'm going to leave the firebox and check on the bread. It's time to turn our baking. So to do this, you open the oven and you're literally going to turn your baking. This is going to ensure that the other side will get cooked, and try and make sure not to keep your oven doors open as long as I did. You lose a lot of heat that way. I've closed all of the dampers on the stove to lower the temperature. It's time to pull the bread out of the oven. It looks like it's done. The way to tell if your bread is finished is to pick it up and knock on the bottom, and if it sounds hollow, it means your bread is fully cooked. I'm going to finish putting out the stove and we can enjoy this bread. And now it's time to enjoy the fruits of our labor. You will remember the butter that we made last time. We're going to use this on our bread. It's going to be delicious. So good. I wish that you had smell-o-vision. And we're going to put some jam on it as well. Mmm, delicious. Okay, I hope all the fairies are out. This is a very hearty bread that goes really nicely with stew, and it's almost like a giant biscuit. I hope you enjoy making your loaf of Irish soda bread. If you make it, please let us know how you like the recipe.